Jeff would like to know if casual workers are able to get the subsidy.
Cool, sure thing. So yeah, I think in the last podcast we kind of touched on casual workers, but I mean, in terms of this question, the starting point is, like I said last time, ascertaining whether someone actually is truly a casual worker or not. And in the case that they are a casual worker, you need to work out whether they actually would have been required to work for the 12-week wage subsidy period. So an employee is entitled to ask their employer how it has reached its view on those matters. So in the instance of working out whether they would have been working for that 12-week period or not. And so if you are a casual employee, whether you've been offered any work during the lockdown period will affect whether you should be paid for those hours or not. And if you have been offered hours that you're unable to work due to the lockdown, then you are considered an employee for that period and should be paid for those hours. And if you're a casual employee, but you would not have been offered work during the lockdown period, then you'll still be entitled to the wage subsidy. Oh, sorry, you won't be entitled to the wage subsidy, and you'll need to apply potentially for financial assistance. But if you're a casual worker for an essential service and you've been offered work and accepted that work, you'll be expected to work in accordance with your employment agreement. Yeah, Tony, do you want to add anything to that?
That's interesting that if you're casual and you get offered work during the lockdown, then basically the employer then has an obligation to keep paying you, keep offering you work. Is that what you said?
Sorry, I think I said, so if a casual employee, well, yeah, it depends whether you would have been offered any work during the lockdown or not. But if you wouldn't have been offered any work during the lockdown, you won't be entitled to the wage subsidy. So it's depending on your employer working out whether you would have been, prior to the wage subsidy kicking off and it going into alert level 3 and 4, offered work during that 12-week period. Sorry if that was a little confusing.
No, it's all good. It's messy, isn't it? That's what it sounds like.
Definitely.
What I take away is that there really isn't any solid ground for casual workers at all right now. It seems to be really dependent on the generosity of the employer and whether or not they give an F about their casual staff as to whether they will actually, because you could easily fandangle some narrative around how they weren't going to offer work to that person, right? And it would be pretty hard to challenge that because employers don't normally have any obligation to offer casual workers any hours. So it seems, I don't know, it seems to me that, yeah, like whether or not a casual worker will get the subsidy as a true casual is completely dependent on the employer choosing to apply for them. So I guess a casual worker should go and ask their employer to do just that. If they haven't already. You know, we're sort of well into the framework for the piece now. But probably going back to what you said at the beginning, yeah, it's like, are you really a casual worker? Because there's so many situations where a casual, it'll say casual on the paperwork, but really in reality they're being classified wrong. The employer's treating them like a permanent part-time worker or a full-time worker in some cases, and expects them to show up for regular shifts, and that just doesn't meet the definition of a casual.